Today, in a New York federal courtroom, Sean Diddy Combs told the judge he was, quote, a little nervous. The rap mogul's criminal trial began this morning. He is trafficking, racketeering, and more.
I want to mention one other quick thing. They can't find witness number 3 still. This is apparently an ex-girlfriend of Diddy's who was one of the alleged victims. And prosecution can't find her.
Right, I heard.
The storm brewing around Sean Diddy Combs has reached a fever pitch. And it's not just about courtroom battles or salacious claims. It's a labyrinth of danger, betrayal, and whispers of a conspiracy that could shake the very foundations of power in the entertainment industry. At the heart of it all lies an alleged assassination plot so chilling it feels plucked from the pages of a Hollywood thriller. But this isn't fiction. This is the world of Diddy, where the stakes are higher than anyone imagined, and the players are more ruthless than even his harshest critics could have predicted.
Attorney is trying to find her, and her attorney has said that she may not be willing to come and testify anyway, so we'll
be
see.
Interesting.
The first domino fell with the revelation of an attempted assassination against Diddy, an event that was almost buried under the tidal wave of scandals already surrounding him. Sources close to the investigation have hinted that this wasn't a random act of violence or a spur-of-the-moment vendetta. No, this was surgical, precise, and terrifyingly well coordinated, the kind of operation that only insiders could execute. People who knew Diddy's every move, his patterns, his vulnerabilities. And here's the kicker. The whispers in the shadows point directly to his former allies, those who once stood in his corner, but now view him as a liability, too dangerous to keep alive. What could make someone go from ally to enemy, from confidant to conspirator? It all circles back to what Diddy knows, or what he might be forced to reveal. The man isn't just a music mogul or a cultural icon, he's a vault of secrets. Secrets that don't just span his personal empire, but seep into the upper echelons of Hollywood, the music industry, and beyond. Imagine the conversations he's been privy to, the deals he's brokered, the skeletons he's helped lock away. If even a fraction of what he knows were to come out, the ripple effect could be catastrophic for some of the most powerful figures in the business.
In her civil lawsuit, Cassie said that she was the victim of abuse, assault, and at the hands of Diddy.
But that's not all. Diddy's predicament isn't just about what he's accused of, racketeering, trafficking, and running what prosecutors have called a criminal enterprise. It's also about who stands to lose if he starts talking. The allegations against him, as shocking as they are, might just be the tip of the iceberg. Insiders are suggesting that Diddy's downfall isn't just an isolated event, but part of a much larger chess game. A game where he's not the king, but a pawn. A valuable piece that someone somewhere has decided needs to be removed from the board. And here's where it gets even murkier. The connections between Diddy and other high-profile celebrities are raising eyebrows, not just for their proximity to him, but for their potential involvement in the darker side of his empire. Names that have graced red carpets, topped charts, and smiled for cameras are now being whispered about in hushed tones. These aren't just casual acquaintances or professional collaborators. These are individuals whose ties to Diddy go deeper than the public ever realized. One name that keeps bubbling to the surface is Cassandra Ventura, better known as Cassie. Her history with Diddy is well documented, but what's less known are the behind-the-scenes dynamics of their relationship. Cassie isn't just a former girlfriend or a key witness in the case, she's a linchpin. Her testimony, if it comes to pass, could provide a window into the inner workings of Diddy's world, but with that power comes risk. Insiders suggest that her decision to speak out wasn't just a personal choice, but a strategic move in a much larger battle, one that pits her truth against an empire built on shadows.
This investigation is ongoing, and I encourage anyone with information about this case to come forward and to do it quickly.
And it's not just Cassie. Other figures, some of whom were once part of Diddy's inner circle, are now stepping forward or disappearing altogether. The latter is particularly troubling. The sudden vanishing of key individuals, whether through intimidation or self-preservation, has thrown the case into chaos. One witness, referred to only as Victim 3, has become a symbol of this unsettling trend. Her absence isn't just a logistical hurdle for prosecutors. It's a glaring signal that the forces at play here are willing to go to extreme lengths to protect their interests. But let's not forget the broader implications. Diddy's connections extend far beyond his immediate circle. Over the years, he's cultivated relationships with some of the most influential names in entertainment, fashion, and even politics. These aren't just casual friendships. They're alliances forged in boardrooms, at VIP events, and behind closed doors. And while some of these connections have remained steadfast, others have begun to fracture under the weight of the allegations. The question isn't just who will stand by him, but who might be implicated if his secrets come to light. Take, for instance, the rumors swirling around his infamous parties. These weren't just gatherings. They were spectacles, lavish, opulent, and, according to some, deeply unsettling. Attendees included A-listers, business tycoons, and rising stars, all drawn to the allure of Diddy's world. But what really went on behind those velvet ropes? And who else knew about it? The answers to those questions could open a Pandora's box of scandal, one that might not stop with Diddy, but could engulf an entire generation of industry elites.
You know, I suppose it could be coincidence. I don't think it's coincidence, and especially given the nature of the case.
Yes.
Because when you look at who is examining these various witnesses, you know, especially female alleged victims, of which there will be 4.
And then there's the betrayal. The power struggles within Diddy's circle are the stuff of legend, but what's happening now takes it to a whole new level. It's not just about former allies turning on him. It's about the calculated moves being made to ensure he never regains his footing. The assassination attempt, the disappearances, the mounting legal pressure. It all points to a coordinated effort to dismantle Diddy's empire piece by piece. But who's pulling the strings? Is it a rival within the industry, a disgruntled former associate, or someone even more powerful operating from the shadows? Every revelation, every twist in this saga only deepens the mystery. The courtroom battles, the media frenzy, the whispers of a conspiracy that stretches far beyond one man. This is a story that refuses to be contained. And as the pressure mounts, one thing becomes increasingly clear. The fight for survival isn't just Diddy's. It's a battle that could redefine the power dynamics of an entire industry.
A U.S. judge has ruled that the rapper and producer Sean Diddy Combs will stand trial on federal trafficking and racketeering charges in May. He'll be held in prison until then. Sean Combs has pleaded not guilty to charges that he used his business empire to transport women and male workers across state lines to take part in recorded performances. If convicted, he could face a life sentence.
And just when it seemed like the stakes couldn't get any higher, the courtroom turned into a battlefield. The trial of Sean Diddy Combs wasn't just a legal proceeding. It was a full-blown spectacle. A circus of power plays and bombshell revelations that left everyone gasping for air. But the biggest twist? The sudden and mysterious disappearance of a key witness. Someone whose testimony could have blown the lid off everything. It wasn't just a setback for the prosecution. It was a seismic shift in the case that sent shockwaves through the entire industry. Who was victim 3 and why was she no longer in the picture? The answer to that question might hold the key to understanding just how deep this rabbit hole goes. Victim 3 was more than just another name on a list of accusers. She was the prosecution's ace in the hole, the one who could tie together years of allegations with explosive details about what really went on behind the closed doors of Diddy's empire. Her testimony wasn't just important, it was critical. And yet, as jury selection wrapped up and opening statements loomed, prosecutors made a chilling admission. They couldn't find her. She wasn't just avoiding the courthouse. She had vanished, her whereabouts unknown, her attorney unreachable. It was as if she had been erased from the narrative, just another ghost in a story already haunted by shadows.
Hey, real quickly, all that commissary stuff, he's not getting any of that because people in the SHU have an abbreviated list. So he's out of luck. No stake for him. Yeah, he is on watch. This guy thought he would have went home. All of a sudden, he didn't get bond. Remember, the first night that he was there.
Speculation ran wild. Had she gone into hiding out of fear? Was she silenced by threats or promises? Or was it something even darker, something unspoken but impossible to ignore? The timing was too perfect or too suspicious to be a coincidence. And then there was the question no one wanted to ask, but everyone was thinking. Who stood to gain from her disappearance? The defense wasted no time pouncing on the revelation, using it to paint the prosecution as unprepared and overreaching. But for those watching closely, the implications were far more sinister. If even one witness could be removed from the equation, what did that say about the forces at play behind the scenes? And let's not forget the other witnesses, the ones who remained. Cassie, the high-profile ex-girlfriend whose name had become synonymous with the case, was reportedly still slated to testify. But how secure was her position now? If victim 3 could vanish without a trace, what kind of pressure was being applied to the others? And what kind of protection, if any, was the system offering to those brave enough to step forward? The courtroom wasn't just a place for justice, it was a crucible, a stage where power and fear collided in real time.
Now, to the latest on the arrest of Sean Diddy Combs. This one has so many people talking. The disgraced music mogul facing federal racketeering, conspiracy, and trafficking charges. Both the prosecution and defense teams are set to discuss the next phase of action following the indictment as investigators work to determine potential co-conspirators. But how exactly did we get here?
But the most shocking details weren't just coming from the criminal trial. They were pouring in from the dozens of civil lawsuits that had surfaced like a tidal wave since the accusations against Diddy first broke. In one suit, a former assistant claimed she was coerced into signing a non-disclosure agreement after allegedly witnessing what she described as years of inappropriate behavior at private gatherings. Her account painted a picture of an environment where silence was bought and loyalty wasn't an option, it was a requirement. She alleged that speaking out wasn't just discouraged, it was dangerous, hinting at a pattern of intimidation that extended far beyond her own experience. Then there was the lawsuit from a former employee who worked on Diddy's personal security detail. He alleged that he had been ordered to handle sensitive situations, including chauffeuring individuals who were later described as being uncomfortable with the circumstances they were placed in. The lawsuit described a culture where employees were expected to protect Diddy's reputation at all costs, even if it meant crossing ethical and legal lines. The most chilling part? The former employee claimed he had been threatened when he tried to quit, warned that leaving the inner circle wasn't as simple as walking away.
This is very significant, just from who we associate Diddy being and everything we've seen him do over the decades. Like you said, this is quite the downfall to go from, we saw the mansions back in March that were raided by the feds. So to go from living in those mansions to being in a jail cell right now, I think it really underscores the magnitude of what he's facing and the weight of the federal government.
One of the most bizarre cases came from a former event coordinator who alleged she was tasked with organizing lavish private events that spiraled into chaos. According to her lawsuit, these gatherings weren't just about entertainment. They were carefully curated spectacles designed to impress and manipulate. Guests were reportedly flown in on private jets, given gifts, and allegedly pressured into participating in situations they hadn't agreed to. Her case hinted at a level of orchestration that suggested this wasn't just about one man's behavior, it was about a system built to protect and perpetuate it. And let's not forget the case of the former videographer who claimed to have access to recordings no one was supposed to see. His lawsuit alleged that he had been hired to document private moments and events, but was later pressured to hand over his footage and sign a non-disclosure agreement. The lawsuit suggested that these recordings weren't just innocent mementos, they were leverage, tools used to control and silence. If even a fraction of what he claimed was true, it raised serious questions about how many others might have been trapped in the same web of secrecy.
It's a question of that, but when you read through the indictment, it's pretty clear who could be indicted as a co-conspirator. Right now, there are people in the indictment who would be considered unnamed co-conspirators, but clearly have played a role in this conspiracy. And I think prosecutors have some big leverage on them because they're hoping that they testify against Diddy as prosecution witnesses.
Meanwhile, the defense team seemed almost emboldened by the chaos. Led by a roster of high-priced attorneys with reputations for courtroom theatrics, they weren't just defending, they were dismantling the prosecution's narrative piece by piece. Every motion, every objection, every whisper between co-counsel felt calculated, as if they were playing a game of chess while the prosecution scrambled to play checkers. They questioned the credibility of witnesses, challenged the admissibility of evidence, and painted Diddy not as a predator but as a target, a scapegoat for an industry desperate to clean up its image at his expense. And then there were the tapes. The infamous recordings allegedly seized during raids on Diddy's properties, a treasure trove of footage that could either convict him or exonerate him, depending on who you asked. The prosecution described them as damning, evidence of acts too shocking to describe in open court. The defense, on the other hand, dismissed them as consensual and private, moments taken out of context to fit a narrative. But here's the thing, no one had seen them yet, not even the jury. Their very existence was a ticking time bomb, one that could either explode in the prosecution's favor or blow up their entire case.
But there's also strategic reasons for the prosecutors to want him to have co-defendants, because right now he hasn't waived his right to a speedy trial, which would force prosecutors to take him to trial pretty quick, which they actually might not be ready to do. But if they supersede him and have co-defendants with him, it makes it a lot easier to pursue a trial continuance without him waiving his speedy trial right.
And as if that weren't enough, the industry itself was beginning to show cracks. Executives, collaborators, and even former friends of Diddy were being dragged into the fray, their names popping up in court documents and media reports. Some were accused of enabling his behavior, while others were rumored to be cooperating with investigators, feeding them information in exchange for immunity or reduced scrutiny. It wasn't just Diddy on trial, it was an entire ecosystem of power, privilege, and complicity. And the more names that surfaced, the more it became clear that this wasn't just about one man, it was about an entire culture, one that had thrived in the shadows for far too long. One particularly damning revelation came from a lawsuit filed by a former talent manager who alleged that she had been used as a middleman to manage hush payments and coordinate favors for influential figures within the industry. Her claims suggested that Diddy's network was far more intricate than anyone had suspected, describing a system where favors were traded like currency, and silence was often the most valuable asset. If true, her testimony could expose not just Diddy's operations, but an entire web of elite players who had allegedly benefited from his influence while keeping their own hands clean.
The defense wanted to propose a question on, after the potential jurors filled out their questionnaire, have they seen any news media, any documentaries, anything just relating to a news medium, and whether or not they saw it in between them filling out the questionnaire to Monday morning when they go to jury selection.
But here's the twist. While the prosecution and defense battled it out in court, the real drama was unfolding behind the scenes. Deals were being brokered, alliances were shifting, and the media was having a field day dissecting every move. The disappearance of Victim 3 wasn't just a story, it was a symbol, a reminder that in a world where power is everything, the truth is often the first casualty. And as the trial continued, one question loomed larger than all the others. If this is what we're seeing in public, what's happening behind closed doors? Every day brought new revelations, new twists, and new reasons to question everything we thought we knew. The courtroom wasn't just a venue. It was a chessboard, and every move felt like it was being orchestrated by forces far larger than the individuals involved. The stakes weren't just high, they were existential, not just for Diddy, but for everyone connected to him. And as the trial marched on, one thing became clear. No one was walking away from this unscathed.
Which, again, the judge kind of made this a point, too, talking about, okay, well, if we're going to continue to do sidebars each and every single time that a prospective juror has to talk about a sensitive topic, that could take up a lot of time. But again, the defense and the government both seem pretty confident that they'll still be able to kind of get it going at a quick pace. This isn't unusual to do in these types of high-profile cases. So that was pretty much just the topics about, Ghislaine Maxwell.
So what do you think? Is this a case of justice finally catching up with a powerful figure, or is Diddy being used as a scapegoat for an industry desperate to save its own skin? Are the missing pieces of this puzzle a sign of something far darker at play? Let us know your thoughts down below. And trust us, this story is far from over. See you in the next one.